5:30 on Wednesday, March 2nd. I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education. Ms. Stoikoi, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco? Here. Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mrs. Schaefer? Here. Ms. White?
Here.
Item B, agenda, motion to approve the agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the March 2nd, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Item C, opening ceremony. Welcome. Welcome to our top Tigers and their families. So happy to see you here. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. Informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, comments will include the name and address of the individual and be limited to 3 minutes. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen behind you, and for your convenience, hard copies of the agenda may be found on the table near the entrance next to the sign-in book. The next regularly scheduled meeting is March 16th, 2022 at the Natatorium at 5:30 p.m. A special meeting is scheduled for March 3rd, 2022 at the Summit ESC at 5:15 p.m. and a 612 construction meeting is scheduled for March 17th, 2022 in the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library at 6 p.m. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance and positive reflections, Ms. White.
If you'll please stand, if you are able, and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And for a positive reflection, so far we do not seem appalled at the prospect of exactly the same kind of education being applied to all the school children from the Atlantic to the Pacific. But there is an uneasiness in the air, a realization that the individual is growing less easy to find, an idea perhaps of what standardization might become when the units are not machines, but human beings. That's from Edith Hamilton.
Thank you. Item D, presentations. First up, staff recognition, Staff Star Award, Mrs. McClure.
Good evening, everybody. Gosh, it's so nice to see everybody's faces tonight. We present at the first meeting at every month the Staff Star Award, which is where we give our staff an opportunity to recognize one of their colleagues. Unfortunately, this evening, our nominee was not able to attend. His name is Chris Kirsch, and he is the he works as the mechanic in our bus garage. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Marjorie Johnson to come up and join me. I know she's here. There she is. And she is the transportation supervisor. So I'd like to go ahead and read the nomination that one of his colleagues sent to him. And then I know they'll do a little shoop-de-doop thing at the bus garage for Chris at another day. So Chris Kirsch is a behind-the-scenes necessity in our school district. He makes it possible for drivers to transport students to and from school safely each day. His tremendous experience as a diesel mechanic helps to keep our buses in tip-top shape at all times. His cool, calm, and collective attitude regarding any bus issue is much appreciated by the drivers. He is always willing to go the extra mile to answer bus questions. Not only does he maintain the mechanics of our buses, he chips in to keep our employee parking lot at the bus garage salted for our safety in the winter. During the last year, Chris was the sole mechanic for the district while our other mechanic was on a leave of absence. And most recently, Chris has stepped in to drive buses nearly every day. He helps get our kids to school. He's an all-around super guy, and we really appreciate all of his hard work. So let's give him a round of applause. So Mrs. Johnson will present Chris with a certificate and a Black Tiger pin, as well as our Staff Star Award, which, if I can open the box, he can display this out in the bus garage for everybody to see. So everybody wants one too. Staff Star Award, and it says, in recognition of your outstanding contribution to the achievement of Cuyahoga Falls City School District students and support of Cuyahoga Falls City School District staff. So once again, we really appreciate Chris. Did you want to say anything on his behalf? Great. It's all you. Thank you.
Yes, Chris has been with the district for close to 15 years, and he's usually a really behind-the-scenes kind of guy, and he has really stepped up this year. He is not someone that typically drives the bus, and he knows that we are short-staffed, and he has stepped up and done that for us. He wishes he could be here tonight. He had a prior engagement with his own daughter, and so he just wanted to say thank you.
Presentation number 2, miniature bridge building competition recognition. Dr. Cruz.
Thanks. Please. All right. Hi. So this is so exciting. I wanted to invite up Peter Geis. He's the reason why I'm talking about all this. So I'll say a few things about this competition, and he'll. I think so. When you're ready. So, we on February 16th, 9 of our students from the high school participated in the 21st annual miniature bridge building competition that was hosted by our Summit County Engineers Office. Students work in teams of 3 for this competition to build wooden balsa bridges. This would be a good time for the bridge. Sure. Okay. If that's what, right, this is what we're talking about. Okay. Okay, so this is an example. And those are 2 different ones? Okay, great, thank you. Hold on. We could use them. We could use the prize. Oh, what are you gonna do? Oh, come on this side. All right. We didn't rehearse, I'm sorry. Oh, share the bridge. I love it. Okay. So on the competition day, the 3 students work together in the morning. They build their design. They're given 3 hours to do their design. They get treated to a lovely lunch, right? No? Okay, jump in. What do they do?
So they designed it ahead of time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're given 3 hours to build it.
Build. That's important. That's
Yes.
important. Okay.
So normally they're made up of like hundreds of pieces. So they have to cut and place and glue all of it together in 3 hours.
3 hours.
Yes.
Then they eat.
Yes.
Okay, and then they test the bridge.
Yes.
Okay, that's the exciting part. That's how you compete, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so they test the bridge. They hang a 5-gallon bucket containing a 10-pound weight to the roadbed of the bridge.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then they fill the bucket with more weights until the bridge collapses or fails. Or falls, I guess. So then there's awards presented to the best construction plan, the most aesthetic bridge, but the grand prize is for the most efficient bridge. And efficiency is calculated by dividing the failure weight, the weight of the bucket, when the bridge collapsed, by the weight of the bridge itself. Cash prizes are given to the first, second, and third place teams, and then all students who participate are eligible for a scholarship. This year's competition consisted of 28 teams, And our Black Tigers had a very good showing, with our top team finishing in second place overall. In fact, their bridge held more weight than any other bridge this year, with a failure load of 117 pounds. All right, so, Mr. Rice, would you like to add anything else about this exciting competition? That was just a summary. Do you want to add anything else about the bridges? Did I miss anything?
I don't know how much you want me to say. I'm sure all these people out here don't want to hear me talk.
I think they do. I think they do. It's exciting.
Yeah, so the kids all start off by making their own designs by hand on graph paper, and then I get them together in groups, and they have to brainstorm which one they think's the best design. We practice and make prototypes in class, and then we test them. And after they test it, then they get to kind of do a redesign, right? Like, what would you modify? How would you make it better, right? And then they built a second prototype. So we did that all before the competition to get them ready for the competition, and that's something a lot of schools do. I don't know what else to say. Like, my job, I feel like, is to get the kids as prepared as possible and to give them every opportunity to be successful. But ultimately, I don't get to make anything. Right? They're the ones that did all the work. They put the time into it, and ultimately they're the ones that should be standing here, not me. So,
Well, why don't we show a few pictures of
Okay.
the event, and then we'll bring the kids up, because that's the exciting part. So here in this slide, you see our second place team, Phil, Alex, and Cameron, and they're posing with Summit County engineer Alan Brubaker. And there's another photo there of them with their bridge. Here we have Alex, Cameron, and Phil. They are loading their bridge into the testing table. Here we've got James, Brady, and Landon prepare their bridge to be tested. And next here we have Brady loading his bridge into the testing table.
so what you see here, just so everybody understands, there's a 12-inch hole in the middle of the table. That's what the span that has to be bridged, so to speak. So that's why on the bridges, most of the support is underneath the roadbed. So that way, as it hangs the weight, the idea is to get it to push out against the sides of the table. And if you don't know what balsa wood is, it's incredibly soft. So that's kind of what makes it fun, I guess.
Next we have James, Brady, and Landon with their completed bridge. And Jack, Max, and Dylan with their finished bridge. And this shows Max working on constructing a truss for his team's bridge, and Brady attaching a truss to the roadbed of his team's bridge. So that is just a little insight into that exciting competition. And we would like to now bring up the students. We have certificates as well as a very official Black Tiger Pride pin. So when you guys hear your name, come on up. So you can give the certificate.
All right, Landon, you're up first. Landon Johnson. Cameron Fry. And Brady Stobbs.
So do you want to read the names of the other ones just so they can hear their name right? Maybe
Okay.
they're listening at home.
Yeah, we also had James Silvo, Jack Frankish, Alex Hanselman, Phil Kleisman, Max Lowe, and Dylan Moses. And for Dylan, Jack, and Max, I would say too, just from my own personal feeling, they really struggled with that 3-hour window. Kind of crept up on them, and they were rushing at the very end to try to get it all together, and they didn't quite get it all together, and they still finished in 12th place. So, like, I'm confident they would have at least been a top 10 team if they'd have got it all together. But hey, maybe next year. And hopefully, all these little guys I see out here, you know, hopefully I get to see all you in a few years. And,
Future bridge builders.
yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Be that mom. There you go. You got it. So while we're having a photo opportunity, I just wanted, I got a message today about Mr. Geis and another project that he's been working on with some of our elementary folks. They're designing, one of his classes is designing bookshelves for some of their favorite elementary teachers. And the email and the message that I heard was so touching. It really did bring some tears. It was all about, the students had to research why literacy is so important in education, and also connecting with their favorite teacher. So it was just a little ad-libbing there. So thank you for that, taking some time. So I wanted to commend you for that. So congratulations. Thank you.
Presentation number 3 is our Top Tigers recognition. Mr. Shabady.
Dr. Cruz, if you come up and help me out. Good evening, and thank you for being here tonight to support our Top Tigers. It's quite an honor if you think about it. Of all the kids in your school building, you were selected as the Top Tiger, so this is a very, very nice award, and you should be extremely proud of it. I do want to start out by just saying thank you to the parents and students that have gone on this journey with the masks over the last year or so. I know it's been difficult for a lot of people, but very proud of the young people in our district that really followed those guidelines and did the best they could with those masks. But I think, as Ellen said earlier, it's great to see those smiling faces out there. We know that there are still people that are wearing the mask, and certainly that's an option that you have, and one that a lot of people need to maintain for various reasons. But again, I just want to thank the parents and students here for that cooperation. Before I introduce our stars of tonight, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gary Metcalf. He's the Executive Director of the Cuyahoga Falls Schools Foundation and Alumni Association, and they are part of the group that makes this award possible. So he's going to come up and tell you a few things. He's coming back from a little injury here, and so we wish him the best, and he seems to be getting better every day. So Gary Metcalf.
Thank you so much. First of all, congratulations to all the Top Tigers tonight. Super job. And I'm sure in a few years you two will be producing those bridges. And congratulations to you, young man. It's like I've always said, Black Tigers are the best, students and parents. I'd like to thank our Top Tiger sponsors tonight, Donato's Pizza, Dietz's Florist, and Young Screen Printing. The foundation has assisted in many ways with our school system. They help design and build the new entrance to Clifford Stadium. If you still want to purchase a brick, see me afterwards. We help with class reunions. We sponsor all class reunions. We honor distinguished alumni every year. And in the past 7 years, we've awarded over $1 million worth of scholarships to our graduating seniors and about $40,000 worth of grants to our staff. And last but not least, see me out in the hallway afterwards and you get this beautiful Top Tiger t-shirt. And you can wear this, keep our fingers crossed, in the Memorial Day Parade this year. You'll get more information in May at your school. Thank you.
All right, this time I'm going to introduce our Top Tigers, and I'm going to ask them to come up one at a time here, and Dr. Cruz will present you with a bag and a flower. And again, this is a great honor, and hopefully you take it that way. I'm going to start at DeWitt Elementary School, and we're going to start with Andriana Sutar. Is she here today, Andriana? Andriana is a DeWitt Elementary School student in kindergarten. She just demonstrates the top tiger behaviors and characteristics at school and within our Black Tiger family. She was nominated by Miss Gaffney for the month of February. Andriana shows Black Tiger pride every day. She is always kind and respectful to her peers and teachers. Andriana works very hard, always does her best, and sets a good example for others. She continues to level up her reading and has wonderful handwriting. Andriana is an excellent example of kindergarten top tiger. Congratulations. Also from DeWitt Elementary, Xander Rogers. Xander, you here? Xander is also a kindergarten student at DeWitt and demonstrates top tiger behaviors and characteristics at school and within our Black Tiger family. He was nominated by Mrs. Poole for the month of February. I nominated Xander for kindergarten top tiger because he is a student that strives to be a wonderful Black Tiger. He works well with his peers and is always willing to lend supplies or helping hand if is needed. He is kind and respectful to both adults and friends. He uses kind words, greeting, and polite tone. Xander works very hard to do the right thing, even when situations are less structured. I am proud of Xander, how he strives to be an example of what a good Black Tiger is. Congratulations, Xander. You look pretty excited there, Xander. Next, from Lincoln Elementary School, Umaya Mulave. Umaya? Okay. The Board of Education recognizes Ian Delgado from Lincoln Elementary School. Ian was nominated by Miss Murray, kindergarten, for the month of February 2022. Ian is a leader in the classroom. He follows directions, helps other students, and makes great choices. Is that you? Is that you? All right. Ian loves spending time with his family, especially his little brother. Ian speaks up for other students when he sees they are hurt or need help. He is funny, smart, and a hard worker. Ian truly embodies what it means to be a top tiger. Congratulations, Ian. Next, from Preston Elementary School, Mia Turner. Mia, are you here? Mia is a one-in-a-million little girl. She is kind, sweet, hardworking, and caring. She goes above and beyond every single day, not only in her academics, but also with her friends. Mia constantly goes out of her way to help her peers. She is always the first one I call on when someone needs a kind friend. Mia tries her hardest in all she does. She's a star at Daily 5 and loves learning new things. If I am ever having a bad day, I can always count on Mia to cheer me up. She is full of thoughtful comments and warms my heart. Mia is everything a top tiger is, and I'm honored to have someone so magnificent in my class. And she was nominated by Mrs. Gamil for the month of February. Congratulations. Also from Preston Elementary, Camden Meekins. Camden, you here? Come on up. Camden puts his all into everything that he does. He is helpful, friend, has a positive attitude, and is always willing to go the extra mile. His BTP shines each and every day, and he is a wonderful role model in my classroom. And that's from Mr. Brooks. He is an example of a top tiger and makes our classroom in Preston Elementary a wonderful place to be. Thank you, Cameron. Congratulations. At Price Elementary School, Sudiksha Bosnet. Sudiksha. Is she here? Not here? Mom is?
Congratulations.
I'm going to read about her since you came, I guess. Sudiksha Basnet is my nominee for this month's Top Tiger Award, and that's from Mrs. Fike. Zadishka is a wonderful child who exhibits all the qualities of a top tiger should have. She is a positive role model for her classmates. She's an excellent student who focuses on her learning. She always shows kindness to everyone around her. I am so proud of how much she has grown in her academics. This year, her positive behavior and her dedication to her learning. Way to go, and congratulations. From Price Elementary School, Anmal Queenyell. Are you here, Anmal? Anmal comes to school every day ready to learn. He is a leader in the class by paying attention, participating in discussions, and following school rules. He always does his best on his classwork. He scored the 98th percentile in math and 92nd percentile in reading on his winter map test. Anmal is friendly and respectful to all other students and adults. Anmal is shining star in my class, and I'm pleased to nominate him for this award, and he was nominated by Mrs. Varga. Congratulations. At Richardson Elementary School, Kayla Gruber. Kayla, are you here? Kayla was nominated by Mrs. Hollop. Kayla is such a ray of sunshine. Each day she smiles a huge smile as she walks through the door. You can tell that Kayla generally loves school. She has an infectious personality and is well loved by her classmates and her teachers. Every day she entertains us with her stories about Cash, her wild dog, and is great at connecting personal stories to the books we read in class. Kayla is a hard worker and a good listener. She is the type of kid that brings joy to those around her. I am so happy to have Kayla in my class. Congratulations, Kayla. Also from Richardson Elementary School, Leo DiLiberato. Leo is the type of child that I hope my son will emulate one day. Wow, that's pretty nice from Mrs. Hollop. He comes from a wonderful family where they value his kindness above academics. At parent-teacher conferences, they made me say it again, the Libertos always ask how the children behave and if they are being kind to others. The family is dynamic and value shines through Leo. He works hard academically and is a great student, but the reason that I picked him as a top tiger is because of his heart. He constantly advocates for others. He genuinely cares about his classmates and teachers. He is the kid that will make sure that no one else feels left out. He is the kid that will make sure everyone is okay. I am so glad that his family is part of Richardson and that Leo is in my class. Congratulations, Leo. From Silver Lake Elementary School, Nicholas Bernal. Nicholas, you here? This top tiger is such a hard worker, Mrs. Miller says. He always is on task and gives 100% with everything he does. He is a phenomenal reader. He not only reads fluently, but he's able to make connections to personal experiences and other stories. Nico always has something wonderful to add to our classroom discussions. He demonstrates respect by raising his hand, using good manners, and following directions the first time asked. Nico is always up for a challenge. He has mastered his math facts and is now moving on to multiplication. Nico is a friend to everyone. He is always willing to help or include others in classroom activities. Nico is a true leader and a role model in my first grade classroom. I am so lucky to have this fantastic first grader in my room. Congratulations, Nico. From Silver Lake Elementary School, Nate Berzinski. Nate is an incredibly respectful student. He is always listening and paying attention. He strives to work hard and always gives his best. He cares about his schoolwork and wants to succeed. Nate constantly follows the rules. He is a positive role model in my classroom. That's from Mrs. Miller. I can count on him to do the right thing every time. Nate is an exceptional reader. He is excited to learn and share new things from his non-fictional stories. I am so lucky to have this remarkable black tiger in my first grade classroom. You must have a good classroom over there, do you? Pretty good? Yeah? Okay. All right. All right, congratulations, Nate. Thank you again. Congratulations to all our top Tigers. We look forward to seeing you get that award again as you move up through the district. And again, it always warms my heart to see these young students achieving great things at this level, and we hope that just continues out throughout their school career. So thank you for being here tonight. And as I always say, you probably can get some ice cream out of this on your way out. You do not have to stay for the rest of the meeting if you don't want to, but you're welcome to stay. If not, you can go out in the hall, and Mr. Metcalf will get you your T-shirt there. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Miami.
I'll get on that. Thank you.
Congratulations. Oh, so cute. Yeah, right. Oh, yeah.
I was confused.
Take care. Congratulations.
I think last time I saw it, she was like, okay.
Mouthful.
You should ask for phonetical pronunciation.
I thought you were saying she said go Black Tigers.
And as always, gets my spoon.
Same time.
Okay, we're ready for presentation number 4, Human Resources Department Overview from Mrs. McClure.
All right, here we go. So, the purpose of this presentation is just to kind of give a little orientation into the HR department as far as the things that we take care of, some of the processes that we follow, some of the legal requirements that we have. I am not nearly as funny as Mrs. Stoikoi, but I promise
one
there
is.
there-
No one is.
But I promise there's no math at all in my presentation. So you're not gonna have to worry about doing
Strike
math.
one.
No numbers. All right, so we start off with a definition of what is a resource. A resource is an economic, nope, wrong one. Oh. There you go. An economic or productive factor that's required to accomplish an activity or as a means to undertake an enterprise or to achieve the desired outcome. And I kind of highlighted the words there that really pertain to the resources that we use in a school district. It's not just pens and pencils and paper and wood and concrete. Our biggest resources are staff, our humans. So that is the definition there. We also like to use the word capital. Capital is wealth in the form of money or assets taken as a sign of the financial strength of an individual or organization or nation and assumed to be available for development or investment. And development and investment in our staff is a big piece of what we do in HR. And you'll see that as we go through the rest of the presentation. So human capital leadership is the standards that HR follows. It's a national organization, and it breaks the HR role into the four pie pieces there. And so we're going to kind of just take a quick peek inside each of the pieces. The first one is performance excellence. Some things that we do. This is kind of the overall overarching piece in HR, aligning human capital to our organizations, which means finding the folks that fit best with us. When we're bringing in new staff, when we're orienting new staff, we're aligning them to our organization, bringing them in so that they understand what it means to be a Black Tiger, truly. We do that through communication with them. It's also, we're looking for sustainability. We want to bring in people who are going to spend some time with us, who are not just going to be a one and done like our treasurers have been. That's why we brought in Mrs. Stoicoy. We let her stay. So, sustainability, risk management. With any human being, there is some risk, and that is where HR comes in with making sure that folks know the relevant laws, the relevant regulations that they need to hold an Ohio license, to work in a school district. That's the kind of risk I'm talking about. So we don't end up, in the papers or on Fox News. And it also, managing that risk means educating our staff to understand what the compliance is that they need to have to be a part of a school district. Finally, it means continuous improvement, which is providing resources and support to achieve that compliance. I highlighted the word support because I want to talk about that just a little bit more in the next slide. Some of the supports, this is just a few. Now, this is where you get into all the alphabet letters. So there's no math, but there's lots of alphabet letters in HR. So there's the Resident Educator Program, which you also will hear called the RE program. This is a state requirement. It's a 4-year program. It becomes part of our negotiated agreement. It's also part of the Ohio licensure program. A new teacher coming into education in Ohio automatically becomes part of this 4-year resident educator program. It involves a lot of mentoring from colleagues, and people who are mentors have to go through a special training, and it involves instructional coaching. The big focus in the resident educator program is communication, collaboration, and professional growth. So teaching that teacher how to be a teacher. A big part of the resident educator program, the only part that's not really controlled by our district, is RESA, which is the Resident Educator Summative Assessment. That is taken in the 3rd year of the resident educator program, and during that program, the resident educator actually has to videotape a lesson of them self-teaching, and it gets sent to ODE, and someone else grades it, and they have to pass that in order to move on to the 4th year of the resident educator program. Another piece of the alphabet is the LPDC, or the Local Professional Development Committee. That's also a state requirement. It's also part of our negotiated agreement. What this committee does is, trying to think of the best way to say it, in order for a teacher to renew their license every 5 years, they have to complete 180 contact hours of professional development towards their field in whatever they're licensed in. And so the role of the LPDC is to approve those activities so that the teacher can gather those hours every 5 years. They have to do that. Part of that is the teacher needs to submit an individual professional development plan, or an IPDIPI, which is kind of their goal. How are they going, again, as I said, lots of letters. How are they going to achieve their goal of taking professional development so that they can renew their license in 5 years? And it's required for all educators in Ohio. Anyone who holds a teaching license, or a psychologist license, or a school counselor's license, a principal's license, a superintendent's license, anyone who is licensed in the state of Ohio has to go through this program to renew that license or licenses every 5 years. The only people that don't participate are the folks who are in that RE program for those 4 years, because they're doing enough. They have enough going on that they don't need to worry about collecting hours and things too. And so it's district-wide professional development yearly on license renewal. So our committee, as I said, is part of our negotiated agreement. It consists of myself. I chair that committee, as well as the resident educator program. Then we have another administrator and 3 teachers. And so board members, when we talk about supplementals for people who are serving on committees. You'll see a lot of those be renewed in July, and those people who are on that LPDC, as well as the folks who are on the Resident Educator Committee, all of those folks receive a stipend. That's where kind of the part of the negotiated agreement piece comes in. Okay, stop me if you have questions. Okay, the next piece of the pie is staffing. We obviously have requirements for staffing all of our positions. Again, the negotiated agreement comes into this. It's driven a lot by job descriptions. We have a job description for every person who has a job description that, you know, entails the details of their job. Those job descriptions are constantly morphing, and so they come back and back and back to the board, but we want to make sure everyone is the job description fits the job they're doing, and that they're also doing the job that's noted in their job description. We do some branding in human resources. This is where we're doing some of the work with Impact Group. Again, it's more about consistency and bringing people in who work with our system, who understand our goals. When I'm interviewing, it's always impressive to me to somebody interviewing for a teaching job that knows what our strategic plan is about, that knows what our construction project is about, that knows how many elementary schools we have and where they are. So a lot of that consistency and branding those people that want to be here. We do recruiting. We have an electronic system that is our main recruiting tool. It's called AppleTrack, and that is pretty much a nationwide program that every school district uses to accept applications. You no longer have to fill out applications in paper. I remember when I was a very young teacher and trying to find my first job and filling out by hand a stack of 30 job applications and writing the same thing over and over again. You no longer have to do that. It's all electronic. Everything can get uploaded into that, and you can literally shoot that out to across the country for people who are looking for teachers. And you can look for jobs across the country too, so it's not just a random shot in the dark. Do you need a special ed teacher? You can see that, you know, Los Angeles needs this teacher or this principal or this administrator sort of thing. So that's one of the big recruiting tools we use, along with social media. AppleTrack allows us to shoot all of our postings to all of our social media accounts. We post on a website called K-12 JobSpot, which is another national kind of a warehouse for jobs, for teaching jobs. So there's lots of ways to get information about that. And then next comes, after all of that, comes the selection and placement. That's what I wanted to kind of do a little bit on next. So I'm right in the middle of beginning our placement process. This is the time of the year that it starts to get a little busier in HR. The winter months are a little quieter. Right now, I have meetings with all of our principals. We call them staffing meetings. We talk to them about, you know, what are you looking at, and who's retiring, who is, is interested possibly in moving grade levels. And then if there are vacancies, then we post that at the end of whatever's left. So for example, if I have a second grade teacher that's retiring from a building, Preston say, and Principal Brown at Preston has another teacher that really wants to go into that second grade job, she is able to move that person. I tell the principals every year, you have the power of placement within your building. You can shift people around. That is your responsibility, and I trust you to do that. And then what job is left is the job that I fill. So whatever job that teacher's coming from, whether it be kindergarten or third grade, as long as they're appropriately licensed, that's where I fill. So they're based upon vacancies. Sometimes enrollment, especially in elementary school, affects our staffing time. Whether, sometimes you have one of those blip years where maybe there was a blizzard and 9 months later there was a bunch of babies born, and 5 years later our kindergarten classes are really big. So sometimes you just have those years where there is, one or two grade levels that is much larger than the other grade levels in your building. And we shift people within the buildings to that, but sometimes it results in an additional position being needed. So we do that. And also, based on our district vision and goals, what kind of programming, especially with the older kids, are we looking for as we look for our goals and for our visions? This will come into play a lot as we move closer to our 612 building, and we're bringing those 3 staff together and looking at licensure and see who's able to teach what. So that'll be coming in a couple of years. That'll be a real busy time. We post those positions, like I said, on AppleTrack, along with the job description. There are posting requirements that are in our negotiated agreement that we need to follow, as far as if somebody is an internal, which means candidate, which means they're already part of our staff, versus somebody who's an external candidate, which means that they are coming in, would like to come into Cuyahoga Falls. We screen and select those interview candidates. We're getting ready to do that with some principal jobs we have open. The first round of screening is what we call paper screening, and usually that's just myself and the building administrator, especially the building administrator in this position with like the assistant principal, going through and just really kind of looking at those paper applications. Right now we have about 30 paper applications. When I say paper, I mean on AppleTrack, that we're gonna go through and just kind of gauge who's a fit, who's got some experience, things that we're looking for as we look to bring somebody into our district. So that we screen and then make that selection for a first round interview. Typically there are 3 rounds if you include the paper screening interview process. So generally the first round is a shorter round. It's a little more scripted. And then the second round often is a little less scripted. It gives us an opportunity. When I'm interviewing people, I really like to not have boom, 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 boom questions, because the person's true personality really shows up when you can kind of engage them in some conversation. They relax a little bit. You have to understand they're real nervous, especially young kids coming right out of college. It's their first job. They're super nervous. And if you relax and if you kind of just engage them in some conversation, kind of non-scripted, just kind of see where it goes, you really, really get to do a better job of seeing that true person and talking. When we talk about fit, are they a person that's going to kind of fit with the rest of us? So that's the process. Oftentimes, depending on principal preference, the principal likes to bring in some staff members to do some of one of the interviews. Again, to kind of, as an HR director, I was a special ed teacher, I was a principal. I'm an expert in a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in chemistry or in teaching, music. So we like to have our experts join us, because they're the ones that when someone is talking about a particular teaching method that might be specific to music or to art or something like that, we like to have those experts there. That helps us out. Sorry, my screen just went off. There we go. So that's what I talk about when I talk about participants and formats. And then it comes to the selection of the candidate for the position and the job offer. So there are several steps that go into that. In between the selection and the actual offer, we do reference checks. Usually I like to talk to people who they give us as references, but often we talk to people that they don't give us as references. Between all of us, we know somebody that person has worked with or worked for, because you're looking for a job. You're not going to give references of somebody who's going to think that you didn't do a very good job. So it benefits to do both, to talk to the people that are going to say those positive things and really kind of get that out of them, but also talk to people who weren't listed as references, but know those people. So we do that. During that process of getting the job offer together is when we really look at licensure. In Ohio, teachers have restrictions on what they can teach based on their license. So, they can have a pre-K through 3 license. Somebody with a pre-K through 3 license cannot teach anything in 4th grade. Somebody with a 4 through 9 license can't teach anything past 9th grade. Somebody with a 7 through 12 license is going to have a license in a specific content area. They can't teach outside of that content area. It's like integrated math in 7th through 12th grade. They couldn't teach in a 6th grade math classroom. Okay, so Ohio's pretty particular. Ohio's pretty stringent on that. They they have, you know, comparatively with other states, they're pretty stringent on that. They are trying to tweak it a little bit to make it a little more user-friendly with us being the user. But we do check those licenses and make sure that everybody's, you know, licensed to teach the job that we are hiring them for. That's when we look at to see if they are part of a resident educator program. Do we need to assign them a mentor? Or have they done all that already? And we just need to assign them a colleague that's gonna kinda show them the ropes, where the bathroom is, where the copy room is, and those kinds of things, and how things are done. Part of, let's see, then I lost my spot. Sorry. And then the job offer itself. We do, again, have a collective bargaining agreement that is very specific as far as educational levels. You know, if you have a bachelor's, or if you have hours past your bachelor's, or if you have a master's degree, and then it also has years of experience. So that's where kind of some of the negotiation comes in, because if somebody is coming to me with 20 years experience, my budget, my HR budget, you know, won't allow for me to bring in everybody with 20 years experience. It's just not fiscally responsible. So that's where some of the negotiations come in. And it really, truly does depend on what the position is. Because if it's a high needs position, then I'm really not gonna find anybody as qualified as that, then I'm gonna give them a little bit, you know, more. So that was, as an HR person, that was the one thing when I was new to this job that it took me a little bit of time to like make that leap on my own to really start negotiating. I'm pretty good at it now, but so that's part of it too. And then of course the acceptance of the job offer, and there's regulations for that. If they are resigning from a position already, if it's after July 10th, their district does not have to let them out. I don't know if everybody knows that. If it's after July 10th and they are coming from Stowe because they've seen the light, they don't have to, Stowe doesn't have to let them out of that contract. Now, the general rule of thumb is if somebody is moving to a position that's, you know, closer to their home, it's an advancement for them. I don't know any HR director who's not going to let people out of their contract, but there have been times where I've had somebody in one of those high needs areas come to me 2 days before school starts, and I said, I have to say, I'm really sorry, you're under contract for this year, I need you to be here. And it doesn't make for happy people all the time, but I have to look out for us as well, so that's part of my job. Okay, and then hopefully they accept the job, and that's how they make their way to the board agenda. Okay, talent management and development. Part of that is the onboarding, orientation to onboarding. We're gonna talk about that a little bit more. Training and development, coordinating that a lot with other departments. Dr. Cruz and I work very closely on a lot of teacher training. Our professional development kind of falls into both of our areas, because if it's stuff that our staff need, that I know they need for regulations, then I'm able to get that scheduled in our professional development days. Performance management of our staff, our evaluation system, lots more letters to come. That's on the next slide. Employee discipline, we don't like to talk about that, but that is unfortunately a pretty big part of my job. I am responsible for all of our employees, not just our teachers, so I am responsible for all of the employees in all 3 of our unions. Discipline does come into that. A lot of that is based on our 3 bargaining agreements, and are you following what we bargained? Are you following the rules in the agreement? Are you following the Ohio Revised Code of you know, professional conduct? Are you following those rules? So, and then employee transitions, I do a lot of right now. People are looking to possibly move into different positions in the district, so that kind of happens year round. Finally, career ladders and succession planning is what we talked about a little bit earlier. The succession planning right now for us that we will be getting into within the next year is when we start merging our buildings together. That's our succession. What are we looking for in the future?
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
I'm sorry if I missed it.
That's all right.
What exactly is onboarding? It says onboarding, orientation, and
Yeah, we're going to talk about that
onboarding.
next. So
Okay.
I highlighted the things that are on the next slide so I remember. Yep. So onboarding is just a really fancy word for bringing people in and bringing them through the hiring process. After they've accepted the job, this is what needs to happen. We background check them. That's what BCI and FBI means. All of our staff has to have a background check. Anyone who's licensed in Ohio has to have a new background check every 5 years, which runs through the Bureau of Criminal Investigations as well as the FBI. Anybody who is coming to work for us needs to have pre-employment drug screening. We check their licensure to make sure that it's valid and ready to go for what they're teaching. And then there's payroll information, where all of the tax forms need filled out. So onboarding is just a kind of a word that covers all those. It's a lot of paperwork for them. Tax forms, payroll forms. If they are coming from another school district and they have accumulated some sick time, that's got to come with them. If they're coming from another school district where they were working with that local professional development committee, that LPDC, and say they had some hours that they did in their other district, that comes with them. That's all of that's part of that onboarding packet of papers that they get, that they send for. Orientation is a little bit different. Orientation is more like an event. We bring our new staff together for an orientation in August every year, which is pretty much a day-long event. It's a time where they get a little snapshot from usually all of the cabinet members about everything that happens in those departments. It's really overwhelming if you've ever been to a new job. Putting those, who do I go to for what? You know, and if we can at least put it on paper and a name and a phone extension, you know who to call when you have a question about your paycheck, or a question about your Chromebook, or a question about, you know, a sick day or something like that. So that is all of the systems. During that orientation is also when we talk about the Office of Professional Conduct, and those are kind of the rules that teachers have to live by. It's, you know, we're professionals, and educators are, you know, we're supposed to be in public above. We're supposed to have good conduct, and you're not supposed to do bad things that break the law or that set the district in a bad tone, I guess would be a good way to say it. We also talk about goals. All of our staff write goals every year as part of their evaluation process. We'll get to that in just a little bit. And then we also talk a lot about the district mission and vision and what that means in each of our buildings. So the next part of that is the evaluation system. This is where all the letters are. OTES is the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System. OSES is the Ohio School Counselor Evaluation System. OPES, the Ohio Principal Evaluation System. All of those are especially the teacher and the counselor, are all part of our collective bargaining agreement. It's also state law that is how they are evaluated. And it's no longer just a paper pencil and the principal. You know, I always laugh. I remember as a young teacher many, many years ago, my principal one time wrote an observation of me while I was doing inside recess. And I'm like, well, you didn't see me teach. You didn't. And so that doesn't happen anymore. It's very laid out. The teachers have goals. They have a huge rubric that they are bound by, and the growth and the achievement of their kids pulls into that evaluation. It's not just, is your class in order? Are your bulletin boards nice? Is your floor clean? It's really, really, really about the teaching and learning now, which really is amazing to me. I think it's fantastic. The counselors, the same kind of thing, and our principals, the same thing. How are they evaluated on being a leader? How are they leading their buildings? How successful are their teachers being in teaching? And how are they using that information they get back from those test scores to instruct their kids again? And the principal's responsible for facilitating and leading all of that. So those are all of the evaluation systems. Every staff member in our district is evaluated every year one way or another. We have some that are not formal, like for example, there's not a formal evaluation for our custodial maintenance people. But we do have a form that we use that we keep in-house, but we evaluate every staff member every year. Everybody has an evaluation. Okay. The last part is the culture and the rewards, and This is where we get into labor relations. We're gonna talk about that on the next slide a little bit too, but we talk that I spend a lot of my time outside of hiring, working with our 3 unions, labor relations, navigating the contract, discussing grievances, things like that, where that's a lot of the people time that I spend outside of hiring. Rewards and recognition, tonight's a perfect example. There's nothing that I like more than recognizing our staff, recognizing people who have done stuff for us. So this is a nice thing that we do. Compensation and benefits, we've talked a little bit about compensation. Salary is part of all 3 of the bargaining agreements. It's always the biggest part of all 3 bargaining agreements. And that's usually what we end with when we sign and seal the deal, is the compensation. And the benefits, the health care, everybody has roughly the same health care plan. So that's part of our negotiations. Wellness has become a bigger part of our staff compensation. My assistant Peggy Whitcomb, who you guys all know, she kind of cheerleads that, and she does a fantastic job. We do receive a grant every year from Anthem for a substantial amount of money that we can use to help with the wellness initiatives for our staff. Even if it's just, like for example, this week, she and Chef Bill Bailey started doing lunch and learns in some of the buildings where they cook them a healthy lunch. Bill talks through it, and our wellness funds are able to provide a healthy lunch for our staff. So that's gonna happen at every building. Another piece is promoting that culture that supports the learning. Happy teachers make happy kids, right? So staff recognition is a big part of that. We recognize staff as often as we're able to. Something else that supports our learning that runs through my office is placement of student teachers. It's a busy time for that right now. I get a lot of requests to place student teachers. You know, we have Kent State, we have Akron, and those are our big people that we work with, but there are probably about 6 other smaller universities in our little Northeast Ohio area that like to send student teachers here, and I like to place as many as we can. We didn't place last year at all because we just couldn't have additional people in our building, and we just weren't able to. So I'm thrilled to be able to do that this year, and now I'm placing for next year. So I spent a lot of time with that because we're really kind of hopefully bringing on future staff. Many people who have student taught here are now employed here. So if you build that relationship, you teach them what it's like to be a black tiger. They see an example of a strong teacher in a well-oiled building, well-oiled machine building. It makes them, they want to be part of it. So that makes me happy for future staffing. Okay, labor relations. I think this is the last thing. So in our district, as I said, we have 3 unions that we work with. We have the CFEA, which is Cuyahoga Falls Education Association. That is just our teachers. We have OPSE, the Ohio Association of Public School Employees. OPSE consists of all of our building secretaries, all of our food service employees, and all of our classroom support, which will be paraprofessionals or attendants. And then our third is an SEIU, which is Service Employees International Union Local 1, and that group is all of our transportation staff and all of our custodial and maintenance and cleaners, all of those folks. So all 3 of those. We are so fortunate to have strong relationships with all 3 of the unions and their leadership, and I hope Melody would agree with that. And it makes life a lot easier. One of the easiest things that happened for me coming into this job was the fact that I had been here for 25 years. I already knew all of those people. I was a special ed teacher, so a lot of people worked in my classroom. You know, I put students on the bus every day. You know, my personal children went to school here. I knew their teachers. So that was, when I came into this position, that was a no-brainer. That was easy because I already knew the people, and they knew me, and I wasn't just somebody that just came in and they didn't have any idea. They knew me, so that was good. All 3 of our unions have 3-year contracts. I don't know if we're fortunate or unfortunate that they all run concurrently, so they all expire the same year. So on a negotiations year, it's real busy, that'll be next year. It's a real busy time to negotiate all three of those contracts at the same time. On the flip side, then you have 2 years off. If you do them consecutively, then you've got to do it every year. So I kind of like having all three of them on the same year, and then everybody's kind of together. Collective bargaining agreement, again, the letter CBA, negotiations. We have teams for administration, teams for either the teachers or representatives from the other two unions. Those teams and those number of people are also restricted by our collective bargaining agreement. So those terms of negotiation are set out ahead of time. We have dabbled a little bit in interest-based bargaining, which is called IBB, which is the purpose behind that is not to, here's what we want, here's what we're going to give you, let's fight it out. It's more about conversation and working on issues that are not things that aren't working. What's not working for us, and working through those issues. So that is where we are. And this is my end quote. I'm convinced that nothing we do is more important than hiring and developing people. At the end of the day, you bet on people and not on strategies. So, and I believe that. I will put a copy of this in your Friday notes this week, so you have all those alphabet letters. What kind of questions can I answer for you? HR in a snapshot.
How do you choose, or is there a process in choosing the mentors for the teachers for those first 3 years?
They have to go through a training. ODE provides a 2-day training for them, and then I have a laundry list of people that I can choose from every year. Generally, I like to place resident educators with mentors who are in their building, preferably at somewhere near their own grade level, so that person is right next door and they don't have to go to another building to find them. So I do have strategically placed mentors throughout the district, so that they're able to have a mentor that's right there for them.
And my other question was, I know the principals have the ability to move teachers within their building.
Mm-hmm.
If teachers or there is a need somewhere outside of that building, do they have to go through the hiring process? Is that part of the internal process?
They do. So there's two different things. They can take, so for example, I have some elementary positions that are posted right now. I have quite a few internal candidates, and there is language in our collective bargaining agreement on how those go. So all of those people will be interviewed, and they'll go through the regular process. The benefit to being an internal candidate is those jobs are not open to external people. Outside people can't see those now yet. So there's language about how the internal people work. Now, if we would get into a situation, like I mentioned, where I need to add a teacher at a certain building, but I don't need a certain teacher at another building, I'm able to move that teacher. It's called an involuntary transfer. There's also language with that in the contract.
Or when we have RIFs, for example.
Oh yeah, I didn't even want to talk about that.
I know, that happened to me.
A RIF is a reduction in force, and we have we have done that, and that was a long process. We've done it twice since I've been HR director, and frankly, we were a little overstaffed anyway. But there is very specific contract language on looking at seniority, evaluation scores play into that, and then looking for licensure. That's when that licensure really comes in. If a teacher, I didn't even get into like continuing contracts and limited contracts. That could be a whole nother presentation. So if a teacher has, there's no such thing as tenure anymore as far as teaching goes. So it's either a limited contract, which means it comes before the board either every year or every 3 years to be renewed, or a continuing contract, which you'll get those in the spring, and then those folks, after there's a laundry list of criteria they have to meet, so many years in the district, so much level of education, etc. Once you vote to give them a continuing contract, they don't have to get a contract renewed every 3 years anymore. But it's not like you know, when you think about tenure, it's like, well, I can't even fire them. Well, there's always, there's contract language, and we did RIF people that were on continuing contracts because maybe there were only 2 people in their department, and we only needed 1. If it was a little small department, we only needed 1, and they both had continuing contracts, then it goes back to, you know, seniority, so that's a whole nother thing.
Thank you.
What else? Anything else? Good? All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mrs. Cooper.
Sure.
Go on to item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda. Ms. Stoikoi.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all the items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
A lot of minutes. And, I will, the, amounts and rates there, where you see the, for 22-23, this is something that is required by the Summit County Budget Commission every year. And you can see, what is attached to it, so the 3rd and 4th page of that. That is given to me by the, Summit County Budget Commission. So it basically lists all of our, levies that we have and how much they anticipate it to collect, starting as of July 1st and into next school year. And you can see it gives our total, at the very top corner in those, it gives our total valuation, which is used in a number of different calculations. It's used in the state funding formula now. It always has been, but it's used a little differently now. And this is, if you recall, last year after the reappraisal, it went up quite significantly in comparison to the year prior. So those are all there, and they kind of estimate some of this too. This is what they use to kind of start creating on their end. The estimated resources and all of that kind of stuff that they'll give to us July 1st to start next fiscal year. So it's a required, and then always, we had a number of donations, as you can see, some to Richardson, Preston, the district, more birdie bags, Scholastic, lots of different things there. So that's always appreciated.
There's no, on the Budget Commission one, for our new members who have gone to trainings, when they talk about those reduction factors and that effective millage, this is where you can see all of those numbers. So it gives you what the voted millage is, what those reduction factors are, and then what that effective millage is. So you get to see that, all those big words that have been spoken at, you get to see them at work here.
Yeah, and this also lets you know which of our levies, as I've mentioned in the forecast before, have the rollback still being paid by the state and which ones are not, which ones are after 2013 new levies that are being paid for, that 12% being paid for, 12.5% by the taxpayer. So this is the most, like I said, they just sent this, so these effective rates are the most recent that I have.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Item F, Treasurer CFO's business comments.
I don't really have anything. They're starting to roll out some of the reports that go along with the state funding that they've been promising to us. So the only ones they've rolled out so far is the base cost, and I just got it today, so I haven't really had time to delve into it. But it is certainly interesting stuff. We are now working. You guys, we had done a contract with Strategic Solutions. So we are working on moving forward and implementing those things, which is a lot of work on the back end here. So doing that, and then they will also be, which is exciting news, for both Ellen's department and mine. They're also going to be scanning a number of our files for us so that things are no paper.
My only worry is what happens when that truck drives away with all of our files. It's my only worry.
Yeah. So as part of their contract, that's exciting. That they're going to be doing some of our very old board minutes that maybe some of you are familiar with or not familiar with, when we kind of purged last year, probably starting about this time in my office, because there was a lot of stuff. We have the old, when it was still Silver Lake and Cuyahoga Falls split, 1800s board minutes and things like that. So they have a special machine that they're going to scan those through. And then we're going to look into maybe giving those to the Historical Society or somewhere in the city that might want to keep those on file or for public view or anything like that. So.
Thank you. Item G, Superintendent CEO's Business Consent Agenda, Mr. Chapity.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the Superintendent's Business Consent Agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. Item H, Superintendent CEO's Business Comments.
Two things. Number one, I had a chance to attend the Lincoln Bingo Night. I didn't win, but it was fun. I was impressed with the fact that so many fathers participated there. A lot of times you don't see that in those events, but I like the way they did it, and hats off to the principal, Mrs. Early. Focus on one adult per one child, so they get to spend some quality time there. But I was just really impressed with the number of male attendants there, and it was a great evening there. You got a chance to meet those great PTA mothers as well. Also want to mention, I know a lot of people keep asking about the building project. What's going on? What's going on? Today we had an opportunity to really delve into some of the classrooms and looking at spaces and working with Dr. Cruz with the curriculum aspect of what's going on there. So people should know that the project is moving. You don't see it all the time, but there's lots of things going on behind the scenes. And I just wanted to make sure people are aware of that things are happening with that building project, and we're moving forward. So thank you.
Moving on to item I, Board Business. Number 1, amendment to treasurer's contracts. It's recommended that the Board of Education amend the administrative contracts between the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education and Ms. Christy Stoikoy, Treasurer, CFO.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? This is just adding Juneteenth. It's a holiday for everyone, and Christy's the last person we haven't given that holiday to. So now everyone in the district that works that day will have that holiday off. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Item 2, policy first reading. We have 2 policies on for first reading that were reviewed by the policy committee. The first one is on grading systems. The new addition there is under number 4. That's the new ad there, so you can review that. If you have questions, you can talk to either your policy committee members or Dr. Cruz before the next meeting. And then the next one we have is graduation requirements. We did 2 things with this. One is a change in relation to state law about financial literacy is now a requirement. And then the other thing is that we did some cleanup on social studies requirements. So those are the 2 changes there. And so these will be up for adoption in our next meeting. If you have any questions, please reach out. Number 3, future agenda items. Does anyone have any future agenda items? Ms. White and I have one that we'd like to bring forward for discussion, the strategic plan and our district goals, to just kind of do an update and a check-in. Previous board, we've had a lot of conversations about the strategic plan. It was a really great plan, and then we kind of came into COVID, and I think so many things have changed. So we want to have conversations, cabinet and administration want to have conversations as well about where we're headed next with that, what are our goals, and how do we set our goals. We're looking into something Panorama offers called WHOOP goals, which are wish, outcomes, obstacles, and plans. So we're discussing that as well. So the question I would ask you to consider is, for next time, is if we don't know what our goals are, and we don't refer to our strategic plan, is it truly strategic? That's the my question for you, so we'll talk about that in our next meeting, and I'll let Ms. White lead some of that, she's got good thoughts on there. Item number 4 is a discussion item on moving our meetings back to the high school. Mr. Frey reached out to me about this. I don't know if you know this, because I didn't know this till he told me, but he brings everything back and forth on our board meeting nights in his own vehicle, and it would just be a great thing for him that he would personally greatly appreciate if we would move back to the high school so that he did not have to do that anymore. So it's up for discussion.
I'm fine with
I mean,
that.
I don't have a problem with that. Can we bring the chairs?
Mr. already asked that.
The chairs are nice.
So we'll make that move, and then I will let Sandy Erb know so that she can make sure, she communicates with our building secretaries, get the notices for Top Tiger out, so we'll make sure she knows so she can let them know that as well. Item 5, we're moving into committee reports. 612 Construction Core Team, Ms. White.
We meet tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
We will make that community meeting, or no?
I'm sorry.
We will make the community meeting?
Oh, the
Yeah.
neighborhoods? Yes, I did.
How did that go?
I thought it went really well. I'm sorry, I forgot.
No,
But
you're
yeah,
fine.
I
That's
was
why
there
we're-
with the neighbors. And I think there were about 25 people that came right around there. And a lot of them were from Norma Street, but we are, in our plan, trying very carefully not to take any trees down that we don't have to. It was mostly about the trees, but then they did ask many other questions. So, but Bill led that discussion from Hammond, our construction team, and he did a really good job of answering their questions or not, and saying we'll have more neighborhood meetings down the road when we'll get into more substance. So, but yeah, I thought it went really well, and 25 people came, so that's pretty good, all in all. Most on Norman 13th. Yeah.
Thank you. Next
Thanks
up.
for reminding me.
Sure. Alliance for School and Community Growth, Ms. Coco.
Our next meeting is this coming Tuesday, March 8th at 8 a.m.
Thank you. Athletics and Activity Council, Mrs. Schaefer.
We'll be meeting on the 14th.
Board Policy Committee, that's Ms. White and myself. We covered that with our first reads. Business Advisory Council, Mr. Harris and Ms. Coco.
Mr. Harris was on vacation this past week for the Business Advisory Council. There was a little bit of confusion as far as attendance with COVID, and it had been scheduled for the month before and then rescheduled. So we're hoping for a bigger turnout, or that everyone can come on May 24th for the next. But Mr. Shavity and I had great conversation.
Financial Advisory Committee, Mrs. Schaefer.
We will be meeting in May.
Yeah, we just met.
Oh, do we haven't talked about that? Sorry. Yeah.
No, it was the day after the last board meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Foundation Alumni Association, it's me, we meet next Tuesday, but we now have all the yearbooks from 1946 to 2020, and they're scanned into our website, so if you become a member, you get a code and you can look that up. If you have a relative in the past that might have gone here, you can look up their photo to put on their birthday
That
cake,
is
I
cool.
suppose. So. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Harris.
I've been playing a lot of catch-up. I do not have an update tonight. I will at the next meeting.
Thank you. Student Achievement Liaison, Ms. White.
Yeah, we meet Monday at 3:15,
Thank you.
BSC.
Student Wellness and Success Liaison, that's me. Panorama did this online conference, they called it the Thriving School Summit, and I watched the videos, some of them in the background, some of them weren't as exciting, but there were 2 really good sessions. One was they had 3 different state teachers of the year as well as the national teacher of the year talk about what a thriving school means to them. That one was really good and really great. And then the second was Dr. Linda Darling Hammond, who's a renowned educator. She's actually the president of the California State Board of Education, and it was just amazing. She talked about brain science and how that affects our responses to environments of schools, that You know, if young kids are having negative experiences in schools, now their brain is hardwired to see school as a negative thing, and their brain's actually going to produce negative chemicals when they go to school every day. Fascinating stuff. And she has her own theory named after herself, which I think is really interesting. And it's that teaching is a process of organizing people, organizing the environment, and organizing knowledge so that they enable learning for the wide range of students who are in all of our classrooms. Very, very interesting stuff. Now on to comments, Mrs. Schaefer.
Busy week. We we attended several trainings for boardmanship, finance, evaluations, and we're going to one this weekend. A lot of things going on. Building project. We're interviewing superintendent prospects. A lot of exciting things going on in the district.
Thank you. Ms. White?
Well, as always, I have an article to read. No. This is entitled, Building a Caring Climate That Promotes Belonging and Engagement. And there was a study done, and what they found, basically, we know that when students find meaning in what they are studying, when they are not just working for the sake of a grade or to check off an assignment or on a to-do list, they are more likely to be academically successful. We also know that all students need to feel cared for and respected to thrive in school. So how can we as educators truly engage our students in work that they find meaningful and valuable? How can we make school a place where students feel valued, connected, and included? The answers to these questions are related to specific practices that make classroom lessons more relevant, fair, and useful while promoting a school-wide climate of care and belonging. In other words, the classroom curriculum and lessons affect not only students' academic trajectory, but also their social and emotional outcomes. We found further evidence of the significant association between high school students' experience of academic engagement and their sense of belonging. This association was greatest when schools and teachers engaged in specific practices. In short, when teachers intentionally design lessons that are meaningful to their students, build an authentic climate of respect into their classrooms, listen closely to students, and incorporate their input and grade in a way that students consider fair, students' sense of belonging and academic engagement are more likely to be high. And they surveyed quite a few students, and what they found was by combining our finding from engagement questions with the belonging questions, we found that students who are fully engaged, in other words, scoring high on behavioral, cognitive, and affective engagement, are also more likely to feel a strong sense of belonging in a school. This association between belonging and engagement is bidirectional, meaning that students' sense of belonging in school is also significantly positively correlated with feeling engaged in their schoolwork. We find that cognitive engagement in particular accounts for a significant amount of the correlation between belonging and engagement. We believe that there are several strategies that can benefit all students, but may be especially beneficial in secondary schools where students have multiple teachers who have less time to get to know them well during the course of a school day. The first one was value student ideas and promote student agency. Number 2, create a climate of mutual respect. Number 3, design lessons that are meaningful for students and deepen their understanding. Number 4, use grading practices that students perceive as fair and supportive. And number 5, lose the gotcha in assessments. Assessments that are designed not to rank or sort students, but rather to measure what they know and are able to do can build students' sense of competency, which fosters motivation and engagement. Try open note or open book assessments to lower students' anxiety. That's an example. Helping students become more comfortable with assessment by conducting more frequent, untimed, low stakes, or ungraded formative assessments that help you and your students see what they have learned and are able to do and where they may need more practice. By implementing strategies that build on students' own competencies, identities, and experiences, educators not only foster meaningful cognitive engagement, but also influence students' sense that they belong in the classroom and the school. Creating a culture where belonging and engagement and learning are foundational is a win for all of us, students and educators alike. I just found that very, very interesting, and something that I think we're trying to do to kind of blend academics with our culture of caring, and I think they go to hand in hand.
Thank you. Ms. Coco?
Yes, it's been a busy last couple weeks. I was able to attend career night. Thank you to the community members and everyone in the district that put that on at the high school. It was awesome to be able to attend that. I had board finance 101 for last Friday. That was exciting, overwhelming, and necessary. Those are the three adjectives that I would use for that. But it was good, and I'm glad that I was able to do that to become more educated so that I can make decisions for our district. And then there were 2 great parent-teacher events last Friday evening with Lincoln Bingo. I was able to swing by there and then also go to DeWitt Elementary for their Glow Dance, where the kids definitely talked about Bruno and had a great time dancing. So thank you to our parent-teacher organizations. Looking forward to the book walk that will be going on downtown. I'm sorry, I don't have the exact dates. I know it's the last week of April, or last part of March, beginning of April for that.
Thank you. Next up is me. I was at many of the same things you all were at, but just at the DeWitt dance, Ms. Scala was cutting a rug with those elementary school kids all night. And Lincoln Bingo, they had $2,200 worth of prizes. So there were some very happy kids and families there. A big thanks to the community that donated that much in prizes. And then lastly, because we ask our staff and Christy to brag when they get awards, I got an award from OSBA for training. Only 50 school board members out of 3,400 in the state are receiving this award. So because we make other people do it, I made myself acknowledge that. Next up, Mr. Harris.
Yes, I don't have too much. As it was said, I was on vacation. I brought back a nice tan. That's about it. I just want to congratulate our Staff Star Award winner, the Bridge Building team. I thought that was amazing. And then obviously our top Tigers. I also want to remind folks it is Women's History Month. March is. We recognize the contributions of women throughout the history of our nation. And it's also Developmental Disability Awareness Month. So I just want to remind folks of that. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Next up, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Ms. Coco?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.